time.
Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
And welcome to Overwatch Central Quick Start Guides. Fairly quick, fairly concise guides going over a hero's strengths and weaknesses, as well as other things such as when to play them and what they work well against. Today, we are going over Reinhardt.
Reinhardt is an incredibly effective tank who you'll always see in the beginner public matches to highly competitive play. His weapon of choice is the Rocket Hammer, a melee weapon that deals medium damage and can hit multiple enemies with the same swing. His first ability, which is in place of an alternative fire, is the Barrier Field, more commonly referred to as the Reinhardt Shield. This is a rectangular barrier projected in front of Reinhardt with an HP pool of 2000, which regenerates if the shield is inactive for a few seconds. Reinhardt's second ability is Charge. This activates Reinhardt's engine in the back and shoots himself forward in a charge, pinning anyone in his way, but only one enemy at a time. You can't cancel the charge currently, but if you pin someone for long enough, they will die when you hit a wall. The final normal ability is the Fire Strike, which allows Reinhardt to sling a flaming projectile from his hammer that can go through multiple enemies, dealing medium damage. Finally, Reinhardt's ultimate ability is Earth Shatter. When charged up and activated, Reinhardt slams his hammerhead down on the floor, stunning any enemies in a cone in front of him on the floor and dealing medium damage.
Reinhardt is the most traditional tank in Overwatch and is great at protecting his team with his shield. He has huge damage up close and a charge which will keep enemies on their toes and at a distance, meaning that defending with Reinhardt is fairly straightforward. He is one of the best at mitigating damage and even some strong ultimates by just throwing his barrier up. Your charge will kill all heroes apart from tanks so long as you manage to hit a wall with them attached. His ultimate is strong and can take down heroes and strong pushes, meaning that you and your team can clear up if you manage to catch a fair few in this Earth Shatter. If you want a hero for an all-encompassing tank to learn and practice, then look no further than Reinhardt Wilhelm.
When playing Reinhardt, you have the choice of being aggressive and defensive, but you really have to dedicate to one of them at a time. If you charge away from your team, enemies can easily gang up on you since you've dropped your shield. If you're defending your team and drop your shield for whatever reason, you're not only exposing yourself, but also your allies. This also means that if an enemy does run around you and start shooting you in the back, you have to choose between not turning around and hoping that your team deals with them, or turn around and expose yourself to the enemy team. And on top of all this, you're very easy to hit because of your size, just like most tanks. Reinhardt is also very dependent on the rest of his team dealing damage when he has his shield up. If you and your team aren't coordinated and are running in separately, you will struggle to synergize and just stand out in the open, taking damage for no reason whatsoever.
So what heroes should you be attacking? Well, this is a little bit tricky to answer for Reinhardt. As for heroes in particular that you should be targeting, there really aren't any specific ones that Reinhardt should just run after. You play the positioning game and want to make sure that your enemy can't get comfortable in where they stand. Get enemy tanks out of position by charging at them and create chaos in the enemy team lineup, and your allies can capitalise from it. Just make sure that you don't throw yourself into battles where you're on your own, because your team could always use their tank by their side, and it doesn't help them if you keep running off and getting yourself killed.
The first hero that comes to mind in terms of counters for Reinhardt is McCree. The flashbang will stun Reinhardt and by doing so also expose him to the rest of the enemy team since his shield is then dropped. McCree can also deal lots of damage very quickly with Van the Hammer, not having a very hard time landing all of the bullets on a target as big as Reinhardt either. Same goes for Reaper really, lots of damage relatively quickly, but he also has an easier time getting behind Reinhardt. Roadhog is another relatively good counter against Reinhardt. You can hook Reinhardt mid-charge, which stops the charge, and if his shield is up you can hook him from the side to stun him and temporarily have him drop his shield. Pharah can also be difficult to deal with for Reinhardt. Reinhardt, being mainly a melee based hero, obviously can't reach her. She's also another hero that can get past the shield with ease. Junkrat's damage output will eat through Reinhardt's shield, and his concussion mine can get Reinhardt out of position as well, so make sure to watch out for him too. There are a few more heroes on this avoid list, but these last ones should be dealt with by your team rather than force you to switch hero every time. Bastion's damage output can sometimes be an issue, as it will destroy your barrier very quickly. Tracer and Genji are also two annoying and fast characters that can harass Reinhardt at range easily, but won't always have the upper hand in close quarter combat.
So when should you play as Reinhardt? Well, Reinhardt is very rarely a bad pick. Sure, he's not as helpful if your team is incredibly mobile and not standing with you, but he works very well with and against any lineup if played correctly. He's great for just sitting on a payload for a long period of time and can pull off game-changing ultimates and maneuvers in almost any form of Overwatch game. He may not be as effective as other tanks on Control, for example, but he's never really going to be a bad pick, no matter what game mode or side you are on.
As for tips and tricks, first off you need to know when to drop your shield and when to keep it up. as well as communicate with your team so they know what's about to happen. You're gonna be in the front line with your team behind you, so let your team know if you're planning on charging in for whatever reason. As soon as that shield goes down, you'll have snipers picking your team off and your ability to block and negate enemy ultimates is suddenly gone. Get the shield up, call out enemy positions, figure out what to do, communicate with your team and execute your plan. Reinhardt is a reliable core hero, so don't forget about his defensive abilities by playing him too offensively, as tempting as that might be. Our second tip will have to be to learn your charge distance. It can be incredibly helpful as Reinhardt. A charge from far away can be harder to predict for the enemy if they don't see you start charging, but know where you're gonna stop so you don't go off the edge or don't reach a wall after you pin someone. This can easily be learned by going into the practice range to get a good feel of the distance. Be aware that if you don't reach a wall or object by the time that the charge runs out, the enemy will be thrown backwards with no damage done to them whatsoever, so make sure to run the enemy into a wall once you caught one. The Earth Shatter ultimate can set up a lot of other ultimates on your team, as well as do its fair amount of damage on its own. It acts as a stun, so you want to be using it on grouped up enemies, but be wary of using it when the enemy are stood on higher bits of ground, such as the top of stairs, as it can sometimes be ineffective. Also note that it doesn't work through barriers such as Winston's shield or an enemy Reinhardt shield, so be aware of that in mirror matchups, and also make sure to be ready with your own shield to block any Earth Shatters incoming from the enemy team.
And that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be releasing free hero guides next week, as we've been focusing on open beta content this week, so be sure to stay subscribed to not miss any of those. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to share this with your friends that are playing Overwatch, and hopefully you and them will learn something new. Take care, and we will see you next time.